very warm welcome to today's podcast. I have with me Hemant Gupta again, and this time I have decided to trip him as well as myself on a topic that I've been reading for many years now. If welcome Hemant to the show first of,
जी बंटी thank you so much.
and for many years we've been seeing this comic strip where this vagrant is sitting on the street and saying the world is ending. Um, they have a kind of placard. The world is ending, and they are called doomsday predictions and stuff like that. Last couple of days, and a lot of things that I'm reading in different parts of the world, uh, economically, socially, financially, physically, destruction of nature, all kinds of things are pointing towards, oh, is the world ending? So when this thought came to me today, I kind of smiled because I had no clue of where this is going. So is the world really ending as we know it? What do you have to say to that?
Um, the the expression "the world is ending"
Hmm.
is basically sounds like a verb. It's like a process unfolding,
Okay.
and it isn't a noun yet. And the so the thing that is coming up for me is कि ये जो verb है इसको कैसे देखें हम लोग, and
Hmm.
what are the verbs and nouns and adjectives around us that we keep hearing, seeing, and then do we churn it inside through our inner vivek, inner reflection, and then what emerges? So the last 13 years, one thing that has helped me in my journey is anytime I come across one point of view on a topic, I deliberately then try to search for its opposite. Uh, because I think the algorithms in most of the social media are programmed to feed us what we are continuously liking or veering towards. So it's possible that some of it could lead us to echo chambers, what is called as an echo chamber, where the same kind of stuff will keep coming and reinforcing itself. So, much like human beings have confirmation bias, where we look for confirmatory evidence of what we already believe in or want to be the case, I think the algorithms feed into our confirmation bias.
True.
Um, so, so last 13 years I've come across these different kind of schools of thought. In the economic space, in the progress, in the development space, you have two broad school of thought. One is called as the Steven Pinker school of thought. The other is called as the Thomas Piketty school of thought.
Okay.
Basically, Steven Pinker is a cognitive theorist and scientist from Harvard University. He wrote a book almost about 9, 10 years back. Forgetting the name of the book, but it's, I think, The Enlightenment Now. Basically, he's making a case that the last 200, 300 years of progress that we have all marched towards on the back of reason and science is a decent progress, and it gives statistical evidence of why he calls it a progress. For example, infant mortality rates are down. पहले infant की death बहुत ज्यादा होती थी across the world. जो physical violence था वो कम है अब, relatively from hunter-gatherer days, and even a few 100 years back. The physical violence is low. The lifespan, according to his finding, is increasing because medicines are increasing lifespan
It is.
for most of the thing, and we also have vaccines and other cures. Of course, one can always argue that there is this pharma lobby and there is the wrong case of medicines. वो भी है, मतलब उसमें भी कुछ तथ्य हैं, कुछ facts हैं. So he makes the case for progress and development, which has been gradual over a period of time. Right? अब इसी का दूसरा हम देखें तो there are people like Thomas Piketty who's saying the inequality on the planet is at its highest today because the 1% of people on the planet capture more than 50% of the wealth, and and it doesn't ring well for how policies are made, and who benefits out of those policy instruments. तो जैसे इकोनॉमिक स्पेस में स्टीवन पिंकर और पिकेटी, ऐसे काफी स्पेसेस में मैंने देखा, कल्चर वॉर में देखा, पॉलिटिकल स्पेस में देखा. In the political space, I saw the champions of democracy doubling down on, democracy, and saying that yes, there are flaws with democracy, but it still has made progress. उसको वो refine करना होगा. अब उसके विपरीत you have people who are saying democracy can't happen, and you can't do things with democracy. You need certain kind of veto, which can't come from democracy. So then you have currently the two models in the world, the US model of growth and China model, which is coming head to head on so many issues right now. So if I go down this school, टेक्नोलॉजी एक स्कूल ऑफ थॉट देखें तो उसमें एक स्कूल ऑफ थॉट आती है जो कहते हैं कि लेट्स डबल डाउन ऑन टेक्नोलॉजी बिकॉज a certain version of technology which is built on blockchain and decentralized thing can actually empower people, and people can solve their problems locally rather than relying on top down, some person sitting in some air conditioned room deciding for the fate of billions of people, right? और वहीं पे टेक्नोलॉजी का दूसरा अवतार आता है कि नो पीपल आर नॉट अवेयर ऑफ द कम्प्लेक्सिटी वी आर डीलिंग विद. We need experts, and those experts will know better what should do, ought to do, and hence you need to centralize and have experts run these technologies, or maybe pass on the expertise to AI and LLMs and AGI. तो ये जो मैंने स्कूल स्टडी तो नहीं कहूंगा, जो अवगत हुआ हूँ, एक्वेंट हुआ हूँ, उसमें some of them are calling for urgency, emergency, existential crisis, world is ending. And there is another school which talks about we've hardly started our progress. Progress का runway बहुत लंबा है, अभी तो just शुरू हुए हम लोग. Wait and watch. A lot of things can be solved. There'll be a world of abundance rather than world of scarcity. So first तो मैं ये आपके समक्ष रखूंगा. I think I'll put this to you कि ये चीजें मैंने देखी है, थोड़ी सोची है, समझी है. So you have both the schools trying to frame the current state of world and the future state that they believe needs to be, and then they are all trying to provide certain solutions and a vector. For me, I honestly do not know whether the world is going to end or not. And what I do know is today we have things which are capable of creating mass destruction, and you only need a few impulsive people, a few fools with the right buttons to destroy the whole progress or civilization. So from that standpoint, the probability of world getting wiped out is much higher than it was earlier. Whether that event will play out or not, only time will tell, because ये चीज nuclear के time पे हुआ था. Cold War was a classic burning issue. Everybody thought that it's just we are now just there, with Russia and America. So these are the first things coming up that I believe that the world is an interesting place, a difficult place also. And I think one needs to constantly work on their own self to generate enough vivek when they come across these different stories and narrative, and then daily try and contribute to environment and people around, and also participate in certain big projects, the life of which one would never see in time. So I think that's my first response. Sorry, that was long, but
No, it is. You in fact covered a bit of ground on something that I was thinking midway through your answer. Completely unrelated. Yesterday, I was talking to someone who said, तुम्हारे घर में इस तरह से ये सब होता है, हमारे घर में ऐसा नहीं होता. हमारे घर में गलती करो तो सीखने का मौका देते हैं. अ, तुम्हारे घर में सब लोग एकदम ही ट्रिगर हैप्पी हो जाते हैं, ऐसा नहीं करना चाहिए था, ये नहीं होना चाहिए था. And I realized, uh, even before I got that example and this connection, that you tend to respond very evocatively in a manner that uh, I cannot predict. Even when the provocation is there, and I have a few ideas of what you might land up saying or not, and yet it is very beautifully novel and new every time, and uh, that may coincide with what some of the thoughts that I have, or it may just open up a new direction. Uh, so my question to you is a little more personal here. How do you look at your own impulse to react? So I had this funny thought that you are in desperate need of having some chai, and you just made it and you have it in your hand, and you come and somebody bumps into you and the chai has just fallen off, and you just desperately needed it just to get a bit of 2 minute breather from whatever other stress points that were waiting for your response. Now, कभी भी हेमंत ऐसे शांत और एनालिटिकल और डेप्थ वाला आंसर दे पाते हैं, और डू यू से अरे यार क्या कर दिया यार, अ, एक ही तो चाय, अभी दूध नहीं है, या वट एवर अदर प्रॉब्लम, but I just wanted to have this chai because this was my gift to myself for these 2 minutes of quiet and peace. Now it has fallen down and I don't have tea, and uh, you've just ruined everything. Does that happen to you? Does it not happen to you? And how do you look at that impulse? Like, how are you? So, when you gave the same answer regarding social media and studying algorithms, there is a bit of study there. But this is very far more close to who you are as a person. This event, what I'm describing. So, in that area where it physically, mentally means something to you, how are you as a person? Uh, and can you take us through your mind's journey if this were to happen? What would what would be your outlook? And I have specified that you were stressed earlier. The chai
Yeah.
comes at a point where you needed it desperately, because that is very that's the point of the nuclear button that you have in your hand. So what
Yeah.
makes you pause? What makes you think, or doesn't make you think? Uh, how does that work for you?
So I get a lot. I get triggered uh, s- uh, several times even now. In fact, just a couple of hours back, I got triggered, and so here's how I can land this. One is so again I'll try and use 2 by 2. So imagine कीजिए कोई चीज थी, पहले उसके प्रति मैं रिएक्टिव होता था या रिस्पॉन्सिव रहता था. So
जी.
reactive is basically pratikriya and responsive is anukriya. One is very impulsive, thoughtless, and just firing it, and responsing is to create a space between the stimulus and the response. Um, so So we can, at least I can say that there are things where earlier I used to be reactive and today I'm responsive. Um, there are cases where earlier I used to be reactive and even today I'm reactive. There are
Okay.
things where earlier I was responsive and today I'm responsive. And there are cases where I was earlier responsive, now I'm become a little reactive. So चारों quadrant में हूँ मैं. But I think the thing that is changing for me, Bunty, is awareness of this. Earlier I used to not even have an awareness कि मैं ये चारों quadrant में हूँ. तो अगर जब नहीं होता है तो obviously we get into a very different kind of guilt trip, shame trip, uh, self-justification trips, all of that would happen to me. Um, my number of gratitude, I would not say number, but the the extent of which I would express gratitude was low, forgiveness was low, apology was low. And I think these three have improved over a period of time. Gratitude has increased, apologies have increased. पहले जितनी apologize करता था अब शायद मैं ज्यादा apologize करता हूँ. एंड फॉरगिवनेस भी है, काफी मतलब इम्प्रूव हुआ है उसमें. सो दीज आर द मार्कर्स दैट हेल्प मी सी माई सेल्फ एज अ पर्सन ओवर अ पीरियड ऑफ टाइम. नाउ ऐसा भी होता है अभी कि मान लीजिए कोई एक इवेंट होता है और वो इवेंट में देयर इज अ पर्सन ऑन द अदर साइड एंड देन समथिंग एज अ मैसेज हैज टू बी कम्युनिकेटेड. So sometimes that message is communicated, it appears as if it's a disciplinarian message, it's an assertion message. Uh, but the other person might take it as impulsive, might take it as reaction. अब वो चीज कि जो आप अपने अंदर खुद जानते हो कि वो किस पे से आ रहा है. You can make decent survey, an honest survey of yourself कि has it come from a space of impulse, has it come from the space of assertion because you wanted to communicate a message and it had to come in that way at that point in time. तो ये मेरा एक फर्स्ट सबमिशन रहेगा आपसे बंटी. या आई थिंक आई विल होल्ड हियर.
इतनी अच्छी चाय गिर गई उसके बारे में कुछ भी नहीं.
हाँ, तो जैसे मैंने बताया कि कभी कभी in fact I have written a few things about the things I call chores, which is things which we do, they are repetitive either daily or through the day. तो अब जैसे मैं बात करते करते पेन हाथ में सडनली गिर जाएगा मान लो, एंड वो मतलब अनइंटेंशनली गिर जाए. तो आई थिंक एज अ ह्यूमन बीइंग आई हैव आल्सो कम टू रियलाइज कि हम दिन भर में इतने सारे मेरे ट्रिपिंग्स होते हैं, इतने सारे मिस होते हैं जहाँ पे वर्ड फंबल होता है या गलत वर्ड आ जाता है, या मैं अभी उठ रहा हूँ और टेबल पे गलत पैर लग गया मेरा, या कोई चीज में ये ढक्कन बंद कर ये ढक्कन यहाँ की जगह बंद करने की जगह यहाँ साइड में दे दिया. सो आई थिंक एज अ ह्यूमन, as the deep awareness grows, one becomes aware of one becomes aware of two things. One is one's fragilities and misalignments internally and externally, and the second is the acceptance of some of them. But acceptance not to the case where we become complacent कि हाँ चलो तो मिस्टेक की लाइसेंस मिल गया, हम तो फ्रेल है तो करते रहेंगे, तो वो भी मेरे ख्याल से ठीक नहीं है. सो हाँ, मान लीजिए जैसे चाय गिर गई, मे बी अर्लियर 13 साल पहले मे बी 5 times out of 10 आई वुड हैव रिएक्टेड. अब मे बी एक या दो बार कर सकता हूँ मैं रिएक्ट.
Uh, one of the smaller questions that arose was, and insights that arose from today's couple of answers that you've given so far. Is everything, including my original provocation, that is the world going to end, into slide mode? तो इंस्टाग्राम में एक स्लाइड आता है कि हाउ मच हैव यू लाइक दिस स्टोरी और समथिंग ऐसा. आई डोंट रियली नो हाउ दैट वर्क्स, बट बेसिकली एक स्लाइडर होता है, तुम जहां तक तुमको पसंद आया यू जस्ट पुट इट अप एंड से कि आई एग्री 60%, आई एग्री 30%, और आई डोंट एग्री 100%. और so is everything really like that, in a perpetual uh, being born, being and ending mode? So birthing, being, ending, birthing, being, ending, चल ही रहा है, कुछ ना कुछ चाहे हम उसको इतने न्यूएंस्ड तरीके से हर क्षण में शायद देख नहीं सकते, but when we do so, because you mentioned कि while getting up perhaps uh, you stub your toe against the table or the bed or something. So one of the understandings that I have got is कि immediate first reaction might be ouch in my head. Used to be, अभी पता नहीं, अभी थोड़े टाइम से स्टडी नहीं किया है उसको वैसा. But the second this was कि okay, let's watch what is happening inside outside. बट कई बार वो फर्स्ट टाइम ही अगर रिएक्शनरी मोड है तो इट इज़ वेरी स्ट्रॉन्ग एंड you've already landed up hurting the other person by saying something or reacting in a manner. It could be just a disproving look of something. Uh, uh, do you agree that this is a work in progress all the time? And while while because we like drama, we like the birthing and the ending, the being doesn't seem to interest us because it may not be as dramatic. It's just going on. Like you mentioned, there is this there are these two extremes of people thinking, oh, everything is okay, we are moving positively, progressively. The others are saying we have had disastrous results so far. But maybe the truth lies somewhere in between, where you are being more and more precise about what is happening. Let's come down to just continue that example. There is nothing great or bad about that example. So chai gir gayi hai. Abhi that is the reality. Whether I shout about it, whether I react positively, oh it doesn't, it happens. The facticity of the moment is that it is just is now no longer there. So how can I quickly bounce back into the present here and now and get another cup of tea or not get anything or make my reconciliation with the lack of whatever I was seeking out of it or whatever I was trying to avoid. Uh, do you have anything to say about this process and this understanding while we are in the flux of strong do's and don'ts?
आई बिलीव कि एक तो हमारा ना सिस्टम वन ऑपरेशन है. सिस्टम वन हियर इज the way I think, the way I feel, the way I say, the way I do, the way I look at questioner, the way I look at the world, the way I understand existence, my place in this existence and universe, my concepts of birth, my concepts of death. If I believe in something beyond birth and death, if I believe in something beyond that my mind can comprehend, if I believe in afterlife, if I believe in cycle theory of existence, where it's just a cycle, keep going there. बहुत सारी ऐसी चीजें हैं जो जिसके सोर्स कोड में अभी तक जाना शुरू नहीं किए हम लोग उसको एक लेवल पे हम लोग वर्क कर रहे हैं. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, ऑल ऑफ अस हैव सेल फोन्स राइट नाउ एंड we're becoming good decent user of the cell phone, but none of us understands the coding behind those functions that we use. There are a few people who understand, but even them, even they understand it only to a degree, because that source codes have become so vast and so complex that no single person has an understanding ki source code mein kya hai. And I think in absence of us cultivating constant journey of exploring and understanding the source code of self and the existence, we keep using the user interface of all our concepts with the world, and we believe कि वहां से हमको प्रॉब्लम सॉल्यूशन फ्रेमवर्क मिलेगा और शायद उसको सॉल्व कर लेंगे. तो मुझे लग रहा है थोड़ा सा हम लोगों को सोर्स कोड की तरफ जब जाना शुरू करेंगे तो हम उसको सिस्टम 2 के एंगल से देख पाएंगे, सिस्टम 1 से नहीं, बिकॉज सिस्टम 1 इज effortless, habituated, impulsive, fast. System 2 is effortful, deliberate, experimental, slow. तो जब तक हम ये डिस्टिंक्शन नहीं क्रिएट करें और सिस्टम 2 का स्किल नहीं क्रिएट करें अंदर और इंटरपर्सनल स्पेस में, and then also have system 3 which is the vivek to use when to use 1 and 2. For example, just today I read something came up on my feed. If you just got a snake bite, what would you rather do? Would you try and solve for the bite, or would you go and hunt for the snake and ask why did you bite me? Right? So you obviously do the first part because वहाँ पे system 1 apply करना है, वहाँ पे system 2 नहीं apply कर सकते आप. तो उसका विवेक होना जरूरी है कि कहाँ पे सिस्टम 1 अप्लाई करना है, कहाँ पे आपको पिट स्टॉप क्रिएट करके सिस्टम 2 बनाना है खुद के लिए दूसरों के लिए. सो सो दैट्स हाउ आई एम processing this, Bunty. I think we have to create system 2 and system 3 for ourselves, and also create conditions for the others to also sometimes have system 2 and system 3. और फिर हम चीजों को देखें अलग अलग फ्रेमिंग से.
So on a funny note, are you Morpheus or Neo?
I don't get the context. Sorry, I don't understand this vocabulary.
Right. मैट्रिक्स वाले मॉर्फियस हैं आप
अच्छा, मैं वो मूवी के बारे जानता हूँ, लेकिन मूवी के बारे में मतलब वो सिर्फ
अच्छा
नाम जानता
ओके
हूँ उसके. मुझे रेड पिल ब्लू पिल किसने बताया था, मुझे आज तक उसका कॉन्सेप्ट क्लियर नहीं है क्या है वो.
हाँ ठीक है we will talk after this chat then because that itself is a different long chat I guess but you ought to see the movie you might like it
अच्छा.
uh, although it's a little violent but it's a worthy questioning of what you just mentioned what we are seeing so they say that we are all trapped in a certain way of thinking and we need to relook and this guy is looking for this guy called Neo who is going to resolve it and get people back on track, kind of thought. Uh, so, since you mentioned we need to practically look at things, so if I were to reframe my first question, is the world ending as? Uh, do you think it is important that we keep re-looking at things from the point of one if they are broken, uh, and instead of getting down the blame game as a theory that oh this person or this event is responsible, going back to okay what causes this to happen, how do we avoid these causes, uh, how do we come to a probable solution out of this. I know when you're talking wars, when you're talking two people, when you're talking uh, one country subjugating the rights of another or one particular set of people enforcing their might, their money, their policies on another who are unable to get out. It's a very difficult. Uh, it's very difficult to get a breakthrough. Honestly, I wouldn't say that this thought process that I have about things seems to be uh, easily acceptable because whoever or whichever side I have always spoken to when they are on opposite sides of the fence, they kind of tell me to stop bothering because I am being idealistic and there is no ideal this and then obviously there is this history of conflict in a lot of things. My question to you is you did mention going back to the source or source code or trying to study what it is. Uh, as a success, I have only myself to look at in terms of success and I cannot really guarantee whether I have been successful in uh, being being seen as such. So, how many people see my nascent attempts at reconciliation uh, or putting out vulnerability right in the middle of discussions and discussing hugely personal, private things on camera without bothering about the ramifications, as, except for not taking names and hurting other people. Um, that is just a basic criteria that I keep for myself and the guests. But otherwise, we go down the rabbit hole a lot more. We are unsure a lot more. Uh, we are unsuccessful a lot more, I would think. Uh, in every way, we are. So, for example, if one were to be practical, so this is a long form content in a day and age where people want instant gratification, instant answer, uh, dramatic content, entertaining content. Uh, so there might be a lacuna in terms of presentation that we have. And yet, what I am doing, I feel very happy and successful about something. Although that something is also not as defined as I would like it. So it is a world. So if I were to put it in context, the first question is the world ending? Well, this world is ending every day. In my own head, I am, oh, am I good enough? Oh, I didn't get a guest. Oh, the guest is not getting what I'm trying to say, or the guest is taking it on a along with me on a track which may not be successful. A lot of people may not watch it, and they may think this is very prescriptive as a model, or deceptive as a model, or it is just a escapist way of thought, or worst, maybe it just says it is all useless. These guys are talking out of their hats and they have no clue what is happening. Impractical. Now, here the world is ending every moment, and I actually thrive on this whole idea of not knowing and exploring with people who are willing to put themselves out there and figure out, like, who in the middle of a work day would sit down and talk is the world ending and treat it very, very seriously, like you and I are uh, on a Monday as it is today, and the first day of the week where you're supposed to get in work mode, get things done, and go out there and win the world, whatever it is that people do. So my question to you is, do you think there needs to be a relook at the entire uh, way of functioning as an individual to start with? Then this takes up obviously from the last line that you said, then inviting others to join the process, then inviting more and more, and see if something can come up where collective wisdom starts moving in a direction which is, I don't think it will become fully mainstream ever, but reasonably mainstream enough for people to sit down and uh, work out uh, what seems immediately explosive, but our ability to see through its manifestation as a false or as one of the factors. So we can find out peace within conflict, uh, love within hatred, uh, kindness within conflict, things like that. Do you think it's a possibility, and uh, how do you see it? This is kind of an answer to what I have asked you in my head, at least.
Um, so, connecting it to the thing that I was trying to share कि जो 13 साल की जर्नी रही है उसमें अलग अलग schools of thought, अलग अलग schools of practice, schools of belief से acquainted या acquaintance रहा. तो one of the school of thought is around progress, change, solutioning. There is even a term which is rebuked now called the solutioning mindset. Like treat everything, just look for problem and try to look for solutions. So it's like becoming obsessed with this idea of problems and solutions, right? So it's तो वो एक school of thought भी है. अब एक दूसरा school of thought है जो कहता है more acceptance, more kindness, more gratitude. go with the flow, being uh, non-judgmental,
जी,
दोनों है. Um, I I would not be able to recommend anything for everybody except that except the following कि if I were to believe कि जो scriptures रहे हैं धरती पे बाइबल है या जुडाइज्म से कुछ आया है या कबाला से आया है या बुद्धिज्म जैनिज्म और हिंदू के भी इतने सारे इंटरनल स्कूल्स हैं मतलब हिंदू इज नॉट अ होमोजीनियस स्कूल ऑफ थॉट ये जापान चले जाएं या चाइना चले जाएं या ग्रीक थिंकिंग रही है तो एक क्वेश्चन ये है कि these thinkings have been around these thoughts and ideas around for hundreds of years and thousands of years and yet we find ourselves in the world that we find ourselves in so that is a question that asks me to not look for an answer but to stay with that question itself. A. B. आज की तारीख में अगर हम if we go to Amazon and if we type self-help books, I'm sure we'll get more than 60,000 books. So on one side you have these eternal wisdom and the other you have modern wisdom through self-help books. Uh, and obviously people are trying to figure out ways and means of something that they can find an anchor into or a discipline or a home or solace or therapy or retreat or revitality or revitalizing and I believe कि अलग अलग लोगों की इस वक्त ना अगर हम if time was a slice then at this exact moment different human being आठ बिलियन जो है हम we are at a very we somewhere we are similar and somewhere there is a lot of difference in where we are where we are coming from and where we want to go uh, and depending on the level of consciousness and awareness we would be open to a certain set of belief and a certain set of behavior and हम उसी orbit के अंदर अधिकतर रहेंगे unless there is a sudden shift and you're open to a slightly different radical belief system or a behavior shift. Um, but I feel that a lot shifts when a person goes down the path of self-awareness, becomes aware of their thought, becomes aware of their body, their emotions, their words, speech, their actions, their commitments, how we judge each other, what do we do with those judgments, conceptions of right and wrong. I think they shift when you are on this journey. The only issue and the bigger issue is um, it's also sometimes for some people it could become overwhelming, even this journey. Much as the entangling with the world can be overwhelming, sometimes this self-discovery, self-awareness journey can also be extremely overwhelming, also ambiguous, also confusing, also feel like a mountain. तो इस तरफ भी कई बार माउंटेन दिखेगा बट इस तरफ भी माउंटेन दिखेगा इस तरफ भी एम्बिग्यूटी एंड कंफ्यूजन दिखेगा यहाँ भी दिख सकता है I think we have to choose our heart. This is hard and this is hard. We have to choose our heart and then keep working on it.
Do individuals have any agency in the world?
Yes.
How do you see that? How do you qualify that? Yes.
I think agency again. So the framing of the question, the framing of the answer would depend on our own concept of agency. And here the word here I should also be careful. There is something called as paravidya and aparavidya. Paravidya is transcendental knowledge, and aparavidya is lower knowledge. Lower knowledge is something that you can put words to, describe, instruct, download, share. Paravidya is something that you cannot download and share. I can't download it and share. I can't Bluetooth it to you, and you can't Bluetooth it to me. No matter how tethered we are or untethered we are with each other or with the divine. So it's a first person subjective experience that one can have of uh, an entangled will with determinism or entangled will with probabilities rather than a standalone isolated will that stands outside of everything that is unwilled and can command and order the willed, the unwilled. So, so from that sense, I think it's an entanglement, and um, but there is an agency, is what I strongly feel in. I believe it is the case. Um,
Okay. So if I were to decode it in a simple manner, what you just said, my viewpoint of the world makes the world come at me in that space. If I think it is a benevolent world, I will see a benevolent world. If I see it's a conflict laden world, I will see conflicts. Uh, and what you are saying is the agency lies in making the right choices, standing up for whatever comes out of those choices, studying them continually, evaluating where it stands, and in that sense, one can keep finding one's peace point within what's happening. If I were to use a new term, obviously you didn't mention that, but I'm saying that is the grip that we are trying to get. So when I ask you a question, is the world ending? It may come out of fear, it may come out of a sense of exploration, it may come out of a sense of distant, either I told you so or else I don't care, or a suicidal tendency, very inherent or deep, that I would want it to end so that the entire uh, decisions that have to be taken about things I don't want only. So let the whole bloody world end and let's stop with this because I cannot manage my reality, quote unquote, of course, or maybe all of them. So what I'm trying to say is that every individual at every point has to keep taking decisions, understanding, uh, work towards being more paravidya friendly, if there is any such thing, in terms of emptying oneself to see if there is other wisdom coming from other sources, known and unknown. Uh, and then this mix keeps changing us, and we keep studying it till the point we are free, if there is any freedom or liberation that finally happens. But one presumes that there is some such thing, and considering that the wisest people of the world have shown uh, what is loosely people call divine qualities, but I would say superhuman qualities in terms of compassion, in terms of uh, understanding of systems, wisdom, uh, giving words to things which are otherwise not very easy to name. So, as an individual, my job is to take care of my own view, work on it, be responsible for it, figure out what is happening, and that in turn will contribute to the wholesomeness or unwholesomeness of the entire world at this moment in time. So, for example, this podcast that we are having, if my tendency is to make myself come across as wise and uh, very much in control, or what an intelligent person I am, or some other thing, economic financial benefit out of it, that would make me one kind of person. The other is the claimed exploratory zone that I am walking on is true, and I am genuinely trying to understand how this system works, how it works with me, through me, for me, uh, in any manner. For me can also be against me in brackets, but that is again a viewpoint induced word. So do you think there lies a solution? Solution again being a very strong term, but yeah, there lies some idea of what can be done with these kind of questions instead of just sitting down and making statements. Oh no, this country needn't do that, that group needn't do that. Really doesn't solve it. I can solve it within my mind by studying it, figuring out my own biases, uh, openness. Do you think there is a kind of a way out if there is any such way?
Yeah, it's an interesting you brought up, Bunty. Couple of things coming up for me. I remember the gentleman I must have mentioned earlier, Swami Atmapriyananda. He was the Vice Chancellor of Sri Ramakrishna Mission University,
Hmm.
physicist turned monk. तो
Okay.
एक बार उनकी एक वेदांता टॉक थी, उसमें उन्होंने बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग चीज कही. देयर इज अ वर्ड ही सेज इन संस्कृत कॉल्ड एवा. एवा, इवा, एवा, एंड उसका मतलब होता है एज इफ, राइट? सो his invocation was that as if we have the will, let's function as if it is the case, right? So so that's my first sharing. This is अगर हम लोग थोड़ा कोशिश करें इस पे कि वर्ल्ड की हिस्ट्री एंड करंट सिनेरियो को देखें, और अगर हम कोशिश करें उसको फ्रेम करने की पर्टिकुलर फिल्टर से, और कहें कि इंडिविजुअल इज द प्रॉब्लम और इंस्टीट्यूशन इज द प्रॉब्लम. So institution here could mean, right from big institutions to even, interpersonal space. Friendship also is an institution. Family also is an institution. Or society, cooperatives is an institution. Um, तो वर्ल्ड ओवर कई बारी देखेंगे आप कि a lot of practitioners and thinkers have either said individual is the problem and individual is the solution. Institution is the problem and institution is the solution. Uh, uh, मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि there has to be something that moves away from this binary, simplified binary. But that is not to say that one may not be weighing very heavily on it. We do need both institutional approach and an individual approach. Again, depending on what our cosmologies, our belief system, our metaphysical commitments are, and then trying to see what we want out of this life for us, for others. And उस दौरान अगर हमारे फ्रेमवर्क, हमारे परसूट में चीजें आती हैं, तो मुझे लगता है कि अगर हम बाहर भी बदलाव चाह रहे हैं, तो देन it has to have an institutional approach also and an individual approach also. Both, दोनों होने जरूरी है. To the extent that again we want to engage in the world with, कि क्या चाहिए, हम कौन, मैं कौन हूँ, उसकी मेरी अपनी बिलीफ क्या है, और मैं यहाँ क्यों हूँ, मुझे क्या करना है, मैं क्या करना चाहता हूँ, क्या दे सकता हूँ, क्या ले सकता हूँ. और जो जब मैं इंटरेक्ट करूंगा वर्ल्ड से, तो राइट, रॉन्ग, गुड, बैड के जजमेंट से गुजरना पड़ेगा. वो फायर वॉक करना ही होगा मुझे, मतलब उसको अवॉइड नहीं कर सकता मैं. अगेन, some people do experiments around, accepting everything. If that works for them, I mean, I can't say anything. It works for them. So
They would accept your decision whether you who are for them or not for them.
Sorry,
Since they are I'm
I didn't
saying
get
they're in
that.
the acceptance zone, so they accept every decision you make, either for them or against.
हाँ, ऐसे भी है, कुछ थॉट प्रोसेस है। इनफैक्ट मैंने भी वो उस तरह से, देयर वाज अ फेज इन 13 years when I went through that experiment, and I felt that that experiment is not resonating for me for long term, so I revised it.
Hmm. I think we've had a wonderful chat this afternoon again, and so much food for thought. And like always, you do not allow it to end. You keep a lot of loose ends that one can go down that path and have a relook at one's own presumptions about understanding, and which is not a bad thing. I think it is the only thing that makes it worthwhile, that you are at least trying your best to understand uh, before you end up committing yourself to any path. Thank you so much for today's discussion, and I shall see you soon.
Thank you so much, Bunty. Thanks. Thanks.
Yeah.